Hello everyone, and welcome to my first episode about how to read the cards. In this technique video, we're going to focus on the hourglass, and this comes from a request that came to me regarding the hourglass. So I also have a free printable guide for this hourglass reading that comes along with this video, so be sure to download it so you can use it in your practice. Now, I want to discuss not only the hourglass that you see in my monthly forecasts for the year 2019, but I also want to tell you about two other versions of the hourglass. I came across the hourglass through other authors, and I gave it the name hourglass because it has that shape of that hourglass. However, I've had to tweak the hourglass versions that I saw so that I can include the 3 cards from the astro clock in the middle of the hourglass. So let's just quickly look at the one that I do in the monthly forecast. It is the one that has 3 lines in the middle, and then I put 8 cards around them in a bottom and top row. So the 3 cards that you see in the middle of this hourglass, they come from the astro clock. And I've had to make the hourglass in this shape so that I can include the 3 cards in the middle. Now, before I get into the other versions of the hourglass, I want to just quickly mention about how to deal the cards. Of course, you deal them any way you like, but I suggest that you start with the middle cards, and then you add the 8 ones at the top like I just did. Of course, you can deal the cards, or you can select them from a fanned out deck like so. So I'll put the 3 cards here. And then if you have space, you can add the 4 at the top and then the 4 at the bottom, and then open them up. But if you don't have space, then I suggest that you turn over first the 3 cards, and then you can add the other cards on top of them like I normally do, and that creates less space for the layout. So that's entirely up to you. Now, if you are gonna consciously select the cards that come in the middle, like I do with the astro clock, then you need to lay these out first. And you can either use an astro clock as a basis for these 3 cards like I do, but you can also consciously select your topic cards from the deck based on your understanding of the cards. Let's say this is about a long-term friendship, and if there's going to be a gathering with this person. So that would, for example, represent my topic. So you choose the cards out of the deck, you set them first, and then you draw the 8 hourglass cards randomly, like you see me do in the astro clock. So this is just about selecting the signifier cards. I discuss more about this in the free printable. And it's also how I do it with the astro clock cards. Now let's get into the versions of the hourglass that I want to tell you about. There are 3 versions. I call them small, medium, and large. The small hourglass has only 1 card in the center, and then it has 4 cards around it. Okay? Now when you have the small hourglass, the middle card represents the main theme, the main outcome, if you want to interpret it this way, and then you can combine the other cards in different ways to come up with different indications. So for example, you can read these 2 cards as the past, the central card as the present, and the last 2 cards on the right as the future. That's one way you can read the cards. You can read the top 2 as indicating intentions and aspirations, and the bottom 2 as indicating actions. You can also look at the corner cards. You can combine them as number 1 and 2 at the top plus number 1 and 2 at the bottom. And this would represent what circles the situation, what surrounds the situation. And then you can, of course, read the 2 diagonals, which give you the main storyline. So these are the different ways you can interpret the simple or the small hourglass. Now, the next size of the hourglass is the medium hourglass. And this is an interesting one because the cards start to show bigger combinations. So you have 2 in the middle, and then you draw 3 in the top and 3 in the bottom. Now, because of this configuration, you read the cards a little bit differently. So obviously the 2 central cards in the middle are the key theme, the key outcome of the reading, the key focus, whichever way you want to interpret them more specifically. And then the left 2 cards in this column are the past, the middle 2 cards in this column are the present, and the last 2 cards to the right column are the future. And then you can read the top line as key storyline and key aspirations, and the bottom line as key actions and another set of indications about the storyline. So these become important. You also have the left mini portrait and the right mini portrait. So the left mini portrait would focus on the past, and the right mini portrait would focus on the future. And then you would read their corresponding diagonals to get more indications about them. You can also read the corner cards in this hourglass. These are the cards that surround the situation. They box the spread, as I like to say, and you can read them either as this card plus this one, and then this one and this one, or you can read them in a diagonal. So the first 2 here and the last 2 here. Now, another interesting element that comes through specifically with the medium hourglass is the above and below. You can see this diagonal ties in together, and these diagonals tie in together, and you have what looks like a Star of David almost, and this is the above and below. So this is about what is coming down, what is manifesting, and the one that goes up is about your alignment with your higher self. So this is about your spiritual development. So these are fascinating ways we can start putting the cards together. And in the printable, you'll know that I distinguish between sentences and structures. Card sentences are reading cards when they are adjacent to each other. Card structures are when you read them together when they are not next to each other. So there are so many different ways to combine the cards and sentences and structures, and you start unearthing all of these juicy details in a reading. Now let's get into the large hourglass, which is the one that you see in the monthly videos. So as you know, this one has 3 central cards, like so, and then I add 4 at the top and 4 in the bottom. Now again, a different configuration means that we're going to read the cards a little bit differently. So again, though, the middle line is the key line, it's the key outcome, the key theme, the key focus for the reading. And then the top line is a key storyline, and the bottom line is a key storyline. Yes, you can again read the top line as intentions and the bottom line as actions or manifestations. But then we have 3 mini portraits that show up in the large hourglass. So I take the left mini portrait to mean the past, and the middle mini portrait to mean the present, and the right mini portrait to mean the future. Now, when I read the astro clock, I don't interpret it in this way because it's all related to the future, because I'm looking at the next month. So of course, how you divide up the cards, how you parse them, the significance you give to the different structures and sentences is up to you, and is best matched to your query or to why you're actually asking. So you look at each mini portrait as a time period, and of course you read the diagonals as key indications within each of these time periods. So for example, this card here is the key theme for the past. The central card is the key theme for the present. And this central card is the key theme for the future. And each diagonal within each of the mini portraits tells you more about these different time periods. Now, again, you can read the box of the spread, which is these 4 cards at the corner cards. And again, you can read them in different ways. You can do this Z-shaped, or you can do the X-shaped, depending on how you like to do it. Some people will even read like top and bottom, and then top and bottom, or like a square. It depends. It also depends on the cards sometimes. Like sometimes you get an intuition that it makes more sense to read the cards in this direction or that direction. So always follow how you feel and how it's resonating. And with regards to the above and below, I do think that the medium-sized hourglass is best for the above and below because there is just one star. There is just one star, but you can still pick up the same dynamics in the large hourglass. So you have this one that's going up and this one that's going up, this one that is manifesting and this one that is manifesting. So you have two stars of David if you want to put it that way. So what is aligning with yourself would be the two upward pointing triangles, and what is manifesting would be the two downward triangles. And of course, all of these sentences and structures are optional. It's really up to you how you want to read the cards. It's usually a better idea to decide beforehand how you're going to interpret the reading, but be a bit flexible because sometimes the cards will also give you some guidance about how best to interpret them. And the idea that you read a card over and over as part of different structures and different sentences, this is the cornerstone of the Lenormand practice. This is how it is so fluid and you can unearth so many details and wonderful secrets that come through the spread. And this is very much unlike the tarot where each card has a specific, past, present, future position. The Lenormand is completely different. Yes, you can assign certain significances to the position of the cards, but more often than not, the cards are always part of different structures and sentences such that you have a lot more detail and stories that come out of the card. And for me, this is the most enjoyable part of reading the Lenormand. So I hope you found this little tutorial helpful. Please leave me some comments and questions. I'll certainly answer them. And if you want to see other kinds of tutorials, please let me know what they are. Remember that I also have the master guides and the handbook of layouts to help you lay out the Lenormand cards in a very advanced way. Like I take you from the real beginning to the absolute mastery of the Grand Tableau. So be sure to check these out. I'll link them. And in the meantime, I look forward to your comments. Thank you so much for watching.